Frank. What's the weirdest thing you've ever saw in here?
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Hey, we gonna party tonight or what?
Yeah, we are gonna party.
Well, where are we gonna party?
I don't know, somewhere.
Hey, we could go to the park.
Oh, no, we can't. The cops said they'd shoot us if we go back to the park.
Yeah, and I ain't in no mood to go tonight.
I like death.
Greetings, ghouls, and welcome to minute 35 of Do You Want to Party? The Movies by Minute podcast for the 1985 groundbreaking horror classic, The Return of the Living Dead. I'm your host, Troy, and for this episode, I'm being joined by one of the best cosplayers I've had the privilege of calling my friend, and that is
Carol Cowan.
Thank you, Carol, for joining me for this particular sequence of the movie. While I usually do ask the different guest hosts that I have in for the first time, like how they came to first time they saw this movie. A lot of us saw them when we were young or discovered like in college and all that sort of thing. Carol, when was the first time you saw this movie?
That was about last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
When you asked me to watch it for the podcast.
Exactly. I had when I started this project, I had went to a bunch of my cosplay friends and all that sort of thing, because we did back in the day, we would do a lot of zombie stuff and all that, and I thought that would be really kind of cool to get a couple of like my cosplayer friends and all that. And when I approached Carol, she's all like, well, I'd be interested, but I've never seen the movie. I'm like, oh, you got to see the movie. That'd be amazing. A first-time viewer of the movie being one of the guests is a fantastic idea. And things finally worked out, and Carol was able to find an opening in her schedule, and God love her, watched the movie for the first time for this podcast. So I thank you for that, Carol. That's fantastic. Oh, so okay, first impressions. What, without getting too deep in it, what did you think?
It was fun. It was entertaining. A deeply silly movie. I don't know if this is getting too deep into it, but I felt really sorry for that girl walking around naked the whole time, running around.
Yes.
I thought
trash.
she looked so cold, like she must have been freezing.
That's good good old Leanna Quigley. Yes, a fantastic, a trooper in this movie. Yes.
Yes. It was a little different a lot different than the original Night of the Living Dead. It's very much a spoof, more of a just a fun,
more of an homage is what.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, but so that's great. Let's get into this. So minute 35 starts with Tina leaving the cemetery and ends with Ernie thinking things over. So we start off with the conversation of the scene started in the previous minute. Tina is crossing the general open area of the entrance section of the graveyard, having just passed the Civil War cannon that stands on a mound of grass as a monument to the location of the cemetery in the continental United States, that is. As she walks towards the entrance, the sound of crickets can be heard, but slowly rising is the soundtrack of the movie, the subtle but poignant music, setting an eerie atmosphere. So we now jump filming locations where the interior of the cemetery is located in an olive grove in Sylmar, California, which in 2005 was razed and a neighborhood was built in its place. And once Tina passes onto the other side of the cemetery gates, she's now 24 miles south in Los Angeles, California, where the exterior of the UNITA medical warehouse is located. So as Tina, hands in her pockets, pant legs stuffed into her sneakers, the distant sound of an emergency vehicle can be heard. She steps through the gates, and we cut to a shot of Tina's journey. The distant buildings that she must make her way alone to meet up with her boyfriend. The path is lit only by street lights. An ominous vision of the abandoned street looks almost as spooky as the cemetery she's just emerged from. After the shot lingers for just long enough to be unsettling, close-up of Tina shows her looking to be biting her top lip as she studies her path, finally setting herself right, and with an exhale, she moves forward. Trepidation on her face, now revisiting the previous shot, but from a raised angle, Tina's already small presence looks even smaller as she tries to quickly make her way towards the large circle of light in the center of the road. Upon the reverse shot, we can see the distance of the exterior wall of a Resurrection Cemetery, with Suicide's car still parked outside. Again, the wall is fake, actually, with a train track just beyond it. Tina hustling her way with a sudden jump in location between shots as she suddenly passes what looks to be an abandoned convertible on the outside of the chain link fence that surrounds the delivery area of the warehouse. The entrance portion of which is open inward, revealing 3 signs attached to a typical, which is a typical keep out private property sign, a white lettered sign reading Hescock's waste elimination, and a blue lettered Unita medical supply as the 3rd sign. Also, over this time, the music track has slowly increased audibly. Tina, still in her hurried pace, rounds the fence and enters the delivery area of where the 3 raised loading docks are. Tina, still hands in her pockets, comes around to the personal nighttime entry door, looking up at the office with a giant arrow, which points towards the previously mentioned door. She now reaches up to push the doorbell that lightly buzzes. Inside the empty warehouse, the buzz is much louder. Again, outside, Tina pushes the button again, and she wonders aloud as to the presence of her boyfriend.
Oh, come on, Freddie, where are you?
She now crosses her arms, rubbing them to look as if she is getting cold, not taking her eyes off the door. Meanwhile, back in the morgue, it seems the story time is over. While the audience isn't privy to this scene, we can conclude that Ernie is up to speed with the current situation. Ernie now mentions his opinion of Bert's premature decision of the dismantling of the Yellow Man corpse.
Frankly, Bert, I think you acted precipitously in cutting up the corpse.
Ernie still sitting on his chair, Bert perched on Ernie's desk, now using an upturned bucket. Frank sits across from Bert, and on the cabinet behind him, located next to the large gray door of the embalming room, sits Freddie, his one leg crossed in front of himself as he's leaning on his other leg. His left hangs off the edge. All 3 men, attention on Ernie as he makes his statement. But Bert states his possible agreement with Ernie's statement.
Yeah, you may be right. I don't know, but I did it. So what are we going to do about it, Ernie?
Now, slightly distracted, Freddie picks up an instrument that he's sharing the surface with. Frank's mouth starts to visibly frown, his hand resting on his forehead at his hairline. When Bert asks for Ernie's suggestion of what to do next, Ernie's eyes just before he answers looks from Bert to Frank, and just as he's about to say his piece, that's where we end the minute. All right, so that's basically it's a really simple little scene. It sets up the progression of the sequence. Now, obviously, viewers up to this point know that Tina is going to be entering a abandoned warehouse and all that sort of thing because Freddy's not there. We do know that we are getting to the point where the final decision of what if Ernie is going to help Bert get out of this sticky situation that they find himself in. Do you have anything else you want to point out that I might have missed from that particular minute?
I didn't notice anything. No.
Okay. Can I ask your opinion as how do I put this delicately, as an older viewer like myself, what do you think of Tina's fashion? Because this is
Oh my
basically, I think
God.
this is the first time. This is the first time I've been able to focus in on Tina as a character, because it's the first time she's been by herself. So that fantastic outfit that she's wearing. I mean, what is your opinion of that?
It's like, oh my God, I used to wear things like that. I remember it.
That's what I was hoping. That's what I was hoping you would say.
It's like it's like a caricature of the 80s. It's just, and yet that was the fashion then.
Exactly.
Although she's the only one that isn't punk. The only one that isn't dressed punk.
Yeah. Well, so again, the characters are originally written as to be like all punks and all that sort of thing. And that the other characters of like Casey and Chuck are a little more preppy and all that sort of thing. Whereas Tina is obviously not a punk herself. I recently found out through a listener who left a message on Tumblr of all things, pointing out the fact that Freddie himself was a punk, and obviously prior to the happenings of the actual movie happening, he was big into the drug scene, whereas Suicide was like his dealer and all that. The really big punk guy, the guy in all the leather on the chains and all that sort of thing. But what had happened is during an episode, Freddie's cousin died because of the drug overdose and all that sort of thing. So Freddie swore to go on the straight and narrow. And once he cleaned up his act and all that sort of thing, that's when he met Tina. But he was still really close friends with all of his punk buddies, at least Spider and Scuzz. At least he was close with them still. So that's why when in the walk sequence where they're walking across the sidewalk in the daylight and all that, and hey, what's Freddie doing? He got himself a job, and how Scuzz was all like, I got himself a job, sort of thing. So that's why they're all like, oh, that's not our Freddie, sort of thing. He's all like getting cleaned up and all that. So that's the reason why this group is together. And you can see different sequences where obviously during that striptease of Trash doing, you saw how uncomfortable like Tina was with that situation. She tried to get out of there. She even scolded Trash for still walking around naked and all that sort of thing. So it was kind of neat to have that little bit of information. But that's where, yes, that's why some of them are punk, some of them are preppy, but they're all together because Freddie is the joining character to get them to be together.
They do look really out of place with
they totally do. But the fact that even that sequence where they're all together walking around the sidewalk before they meet up with Suicide, they still seem like they work together as a group. Now, so the Spider character, the guy that has the watch that he slaps to tell Tina the time when Tina's about to leave the cemetery just before this particular minute. That character of Spider is played by Miguel Nunez Jr. And the actors were given their choice of costumes to wear. And as it originally went, the outfit that technically Tina is currently wearing now, according to the stories, according to what the actors say and all that sort of thing in interviews and all that sort of thing, Miguel Nunez had picked that outfit for himself to wear.
Okay.
And then Beverly, who plays Tina, had said, I think that would look better on me, sort of thing. So then they decided he found another costume that was a little more punky looking and all that sort of thing. But apparently part of the outfit not the whole outfit, I'm not saying the whole deal and all that sort of thing, but like I think the outer blouse jacket that she wears, sort of thing, that he had originally picked for his character.
Okay.
And then whatever situation turned out, Tina ended up having it as her character's costume and all that sort of thing. So that's a kind of a neat little extra thing that you get from all the research that you do for that and all that sort of thing, as we were talking about the costume. So technically part of Tina's costume was actually picked by another actor to be another character and all that sort of thing. So that's how it turned out and all that. So yeah, her accessories are fantastic. Her earrings, the transparent pink curled hair piece going around it is just fantastic. And she is done so. But the other nice things about this movie is that is actually, because it's filmed in actually 1984, it is so of the moment. It sets that movie in its time period and it captures it. And Tina's perfect example of that sort of thing. Everyone else can sort of be either way, or like Chuck can be like from the 50s or something like that, and the punks can be from the 70s and whatnot, some of them and all that. Some of them are a little more new age punk and all that, like Trash's red hair and all that sort of thing is a little more new age punk and all that. But Tina is an example of 1984 preppy sort of Valley Girl sort of look and all that, which is kind of, I'm so glad that they didn't go like Valley Girl way with her, like, but obviously they don't do a Valley Girl because technically this movie takes place in Louisiana, Louisville, Kentucky. Sorry, Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know why I said Louisiana, but Louisville, Kentucky, right? So technically they're not really, even though it is shot in California, they do not they do not live in California, these characters. So
no.
But yeah, so it's a nice thing to finally be able to focus on Tina herself for her sequence of solo mission and all that sort of thing. So over on the commentary track with director and writer Dan O'Bannon and production designer William Stout, for this sequence, Dan O'Bannon mentions how for the walk that Tina is about to make, and also a future moment inside the mortuary, how this being a suspense scene where you have the heroine do her walk. He mentions something he did deliberately, which he later believes he made by mistake. He points out how horror movies at the time, when dealing with this kind of situation, the lonely walk, that they would have been closer on the actors and used a wide angle lens to put you in the character's POV, drawing the viewer into the scene. He had believed that it was an overdone effect, and that it had become cliche, and that it was no longer effective. He felt doing the opposite, ironically, using a long lens and a distance the audience to create a sense of loneliness. And that's where the particular minute cuts off.
That worked. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, I can see that.
Again, and like he says, it is a trope. You do that, you see how you look from the characters and you see how far away everything is and all that. But him showing the actual physical distance is obviously a different way to do it. Spoiler alert, he changes his mind later on. But more on that in the next minute when I get to the commentary of that. According to the script, which is a story and screenplay by Dan O'Bannon, the version we're working with is the revision from October 1983. And this is based on a story and screenplay by John Russo, Rudy Rickey, and Russell Steiner. So we're going to begin with the exterior description, which is exterior cemetery night. And then Tina picks her way through the cemetery, slowly moving past monuments and crypts. She passes through the archway that is the entrance and passes out into the street. Exterior street night. Standing under the streetlight that hangs above the cemetery entrance, Tina looks across the street. She sees the Unita Medical Supply Warehouse on the other side of the street. The street is totally deserted. It is creepy after dark, with pools of light, piles of garbage, and a distant sound of the city. Across the street, in the warehouse, the lights are still burned in a couple of the windows, and Frank's car is parked in the parking lot. Tina starts across the street. High angle. Tina crosses the street. Very German and expressionistic, long shadows, acute angles, reflections of the light in wet street, etc. Exterior, warehouse, night. Tina arrives at the side door of the warehouse. There's a sign over the doorbell button, night bell. She goes over and rings it. While she waits for someone to answer the bell, she looks around. She feels spooky. She rings again, really leans in on the bell. Distantly inside, we can hear it ring. Tina, impatiently rolling her eyes. Oh, come on. Freddie, where are you? Cut to interior, mortuary, embalming room, night. Ernie, Bert, Frank, and Freddie are sitting around looking at each other. Bert has just finished telling the story. Bert. Well, those are the facts, Ernie. Ernie looks at the squirming bags. Ernie. Frankly, Bert, I think you acted precipitously about cutting up the corpse. Bert. Well, you may be right. Be that as it may, the question is, now what are we going to do about it? Bert and the boys look beseechingly at Ernie. Ernie, craftily. Yeah, if I let you guys use the crematorium, what'll you give me? And that's basically where we get cut off in this particular minute, so we won't go any further in the script.
Okay.
So as we can see, the description of what we actually saw is pretty much what it all is. We also have to remember that this is Dan O'Bannon writing, so that whole entire German expressionism sort of thing is all basically like just notes for the for whoever is going to be directing, because at one point Toby Hooper was actually going to direct this movie. But then he got an offer to do another movie called Life Force that he went off to England to shoot and all that. And so then Dan O'Bannon decided to take over the reins as making this his directorial debut of doing this movie that he also wrote. So it's a little easier to work with a script when you're also the writer and the director sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're now going to do the work print comparison. Now this is when they culminate the what they do, shoot for their dailies and all that sort of thing, when they roughly put together all the scenes that they shot, and they put it together, and then once they have everything that they want, then they start trimming it down. The comparison between the work print and the final film is about like 20, 21 minutes difference and all that sort of thing. So it's kind of neat to be discovering this. And again, like I always state, I am discovering the work print by the minute. I'm doing the comparison and all that sort of thing. So after all these years, and I'm finding extra things that I've never seen before. I've been a fan of this movie for like so many years, and to be discovering new things is just a fantastic thing. For example, when we have the shot of Tina walking towards the circle of light, that shot actually continues on. It actually almost continues until Tina actually almost gets to the abandoned car next to the fence. So when it switches angles, and Tina is headed towards the camera at the point where where the final print is. So that jump she suddenly does from like walking halfway down the street, then all of a sudden she's down by the car. Well, they actually filmed a longer sequence where she walked down to the car. So when they did the reverse shot, they didn't have her walking from the light, so they just caught her from that point on. So it explains the jump that she suddenly does. And once at the surveillance door, when Tina rings the bell, like in the previous minute, there's no insert shot of the warehouse. However, we do get Tina after pushing the ringer. First, she crosses her arms in the cold and paces for a few steps. And after ringing the bell a second time, the shot hangs with Tina a second or two longer. When we cut back to the embalming room, it starts off with Bert telling Ernie, "That's just about the way it was." Ernie solemnly nods his head with a uh-huh. Noticing Freddie is currently handling a piece of his equipment, suddenly reaches out and pulls it from his hand. mind you, it's not the same instrument that Freddie later in the minute picks up and remains the remaining portion of the minute works at the same. So it's kind of neat to see that there's more interaction between the characters, because when we cut back, we're already done the story and all that sort of thing. There isn't an explanation of whatever and all that. And this scene, Ernie reacting to Freddie like playing with his instruments and all that sort of thing, is just another extra character thing that you don't get to see in the way, just because it's finally edited. Because then as we progress into the next minute, Freddie again picks up another tool and starts playing around with it and all that sort of thing, that carries out the rest of his little sequence and all that sort of thing. But again, the fact that he's just been disciplined about, hey, don't touch that sort of thing, and then he goes ahead and still plays with it and all that sort of thing. So it's kind of a neat thing to see characters doing extra stuff that you hadn't seen before. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So that about ramps up our description and the breakdown of the actual minute. So I know you gave us a brief talking about how your first impressions were of the movie and all that. Do you want to dive deeper into that sort of thing? Because if not, we can go into, like, you're a horror fan to begin with, are you not?
Some horror, yeah. I'm not a big fan of slasher movies. I just find them boring.
Understandable. Yeah. So what is your cup of tea then when it comes to horror?
More psychological horror.
Okay.
I grew up on Vincent Price and Bela Lugosi's, and my mother was a big horror fan.
Right.
So we would watch them at night together when I was probably far too young to watch them. Gotcha. And she would fall asleep and I would be
stay
there
up still watching them. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Terrified. Yeah. Things that I look back at that are just funny now just terrified me when I was, 8 years old. But yeah, that's what I grew up on. And then I kind of got out of horror because they went to the slasher movies. That was a big thing in the 80s. And some of them were okay, but most of them were just, there's no story to them.
Right.
Or very little. Yeah, I read a lot of horror.
Stephen really? King. Okay. Well, yeah, Stephen King would be, I guess, and around that era would have been an easy pickup sort of thing. Because I myself wasn't a very big reader in my youth, but I would crack a spine on a Stephen King paperback or two in my days and all that sort of thing. Again, not being the strongest reader, it took me a while to read them, but Stephen King definitely was one of the few that I did as a younger reader. I mean, again, probably not until high school, maybe, when I started reading Stephen King. So and then seeing his movies and all that sort of thing was always a fun thing to rediscover, because a lot of the early interpretations of his movies I didn't see till well after I had gotten into watching horror films. To be honest, I don't think I saw like The Shining itself until well into my late teens, maybe early 20s, just because I don't think because I knew at the time I wouldn't be able to get the full effect of the movie, because everything at that point that was available was full screen. I knew that of Kubrick's way of filming, you would want to see the whole thing. Now, even though Kubrick shoots for a square screen and then crops to a widescreen, a lot of the stuff was still more like pan and scan sort of thing, which was not the best way to view. And then a lot of it was like with commercials and all that sort of thing. So I don't think until I got my hands on like a widescreen, probably a DVD of it sort of thing, which I think I still actually originally have. It might have been one of those ones that were in the cardboard little, like, folding little DVDs and all that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
The little, the cardboard versions of them that were like trying to be environmentally safe even before they did that sort of thing. But yeah, so I mean, Stephen King, big influence and all that. And like, again, when I started watching horror films, like, ooh, a Stephen King, yeah, I'll watch this. And then he goes along and does something like Stand By Me and The Green Mile and all that sort of thing. I'm like, oh, that's Stephen King as well. Huh?
Shawshank Redemption,
Shawshank, not the Green. No, wait, the Green Mile. Is Green Mile or Shawshank?
Green Mile or Stephen King. Yeah, both of them are.
Yeah, Green. They're both Stephen King. Right.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Anyways, so another reason why I wanted you to be part of this is because you yourself are into makeup effects. You've done some spectacular, and every single time this comes up, I always mention your version of Tim Burton's version of Helena Bonham Carter's makeup in Planet of the Apes is just spectacular. And literally a couple of pictures that I've seen in you in that makeup, it could literally be Helena Bonham Carter on the set and all that sort of thing. Because you not only are a fantastic like makeup artist, you are a fantastic seamstress and all that. And your recreations of some of the stuff I've been witness to you doing has just been spectacular. Your Farscape costumes that you've done, of the name of the character is escaping me right now.
Zan. I've done
you've done Zan and
I've done about 6 different characters for
that's right.
People.
That's right.
Yeah, because we did a whole group.
Yeah. And again, just fantastic. So I later on in this movie, obviously we're going to be getting into some makeup sequences that I would really like to get your input in. So hopefully when we come around to something coming up that we can definitely talk about it, and like we can, whether or not we know how it's actually done, I'm pretty sure between the two of us we can figure out, oh, this is fantastic. See, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When we get around to Tarman, we definitely got to talk about Tarman. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I personally would, and the fact that you went, yeah, sure, I'll watch this movie for the first time and all that sort of thing. So I'm like, that's so fantastic that you're doing that for me, which is fantastic, and I really appreciate that. So,
oh well, you're very welcome.
So, all in general, you enjoyed the movie, correct?
Yeah,
excellent.
It was fun.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it definitely is a fun time, and again, it's one of those movies that people just happen to discover at a right time in their youth, that it carries with them for the length that it's been. Like this is, we're in the year of its 40th anniversary right now. It's the main reason why I did the podcast, because in August of 85 is when the movie came out. So this August is the 40th anniversary. So
that's disturbing.
I know it's kind of like,
August,
really?
Yeah, August of 85. Okay, a month later. The reason I missed it in the theater was I was getting everything ready for my wedding the month later.
Gotcha.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much of a presence it would have had in North America. It did pretty good, but I don't have any numbers for like Canadian box office for this movie. So I don't know how well it would have been distributed to Canada at that point. Because I mean, the 80s, I don't know if you'd be getting a lot of like this type of horror film in the 80s but again, I was too young to understand. I haven't seen anything. If you're willing to come back, I will hit you up for a more makeup central sort of sequence and all that. Because over the years, you've been the only other person that during the cosplay has been so heavily into doing the makeup, and so much better than what I've been able to amateurly put together myself and all that. But it's just you've always impressed me with your skills and all that, and I'm just glad that you're able to come along and maybe share your insight on more of what you know how to do and how you might have thought they would have done it. All right. So on that particular, do you have any place where anyone can like
the Grand Design?
The Grand Design on Facebook. Look, search for the Grand Design for Facebook for previous steampunk style.
If you go to I think it's on my profile. I think I've got a link to it on my profile.
All right, excellent.
If you go to the Grand Design, apparently there's quite a few.
Gotcha. Okay, so go to your Facebook page,
Carol
Cowan, and then yes, I'll put all the links in the descriptions as well. So that's going to wrap it up for this particular minute. Thank you, Carol, for joining me for this pretty productive talk that we had. Hopefully, like I said, get you in for future more makeup effects sort of sequences. And again, I want to thank you one more time for actually watching the movie fresh for the first time for this actual recording, which is again a fantastic thing. Thank you. I want to thank the audience again for joining me. I also want to point out the people that are joining us on the YouTube. I want to thank you guys because the numbers are a lot bigger than I was expecting them ever to be, which is kind of neat. It was kind of a lark, sort of like, oh, I haven't done YouTube, so I'll just put these up and all that. And I'm putting them up daily to get caught up to where we are now, which then will eventually turn it into a weekly drop because I can't do faster than what I'm actually recording, but the numbers are fantastic. I'm getting a lot of interaction, so thank you for everyone that's watching this on YouTube. It's a fantastic environment, which is kind of neat. Everyone is very welcoming and very interactive, talking about their thoughts on the movie. And apparently a lot of us saw the movie around the same age that we all were when everyone seems to have discovered this new movie, no matter when it is in history. Everyone seems to be around that 12 to 15 years of age when they discovered this movie.
Except me.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
because it wasn't around then.
No. But if anyone wants to say anything about this particular minute, if we missed anything or anything in the past or anything in the future, drop us a message in the particular minute that you're watching, wherever you're watching it. You can reach out on our social medias, or you can just give us an email at planetgeekpod@gmail.com. We could carry on the conversation there, or maybe even roll it into a future episode like we've had a couple of our previous guests do. So all I have to say is thank you, Carol. Thank you, audience, and see you next Wednesday. You've just been listening to a Planet Geek production of Do You Want to Party? A Movies by Minute podcast of the 1985 The Return of the Living Dead. Please be sure to subscribe, download, comment, share, rate, and review. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, or Letterboxd. Search for Planet Geek Productions. X, former Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Search for Planet Geek Pod. Or send us an email to planetgeekpod@gmail.com. Our closing music is provided by Night Chill. See the show notes for more details. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and farewell, fiends. I might apologize if I do my usual fast speaking for this whole entire thing, because as we started recording, the Royal Rumble has just started. So so I mean, I'm missing the Royal Rumble to do this recording, but this is more important than wrestling.
Well, that's so nice.
Yes. Then right after that, we'll do a little talk about this is your first experience with the movie, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes. So we'll talk about that, how you came to see this movie for the very first time, which was actually for this podcast, which I think is so amazing and all that sort of thing. And now, unfortunately, I cut off the last of what he actually is supposed to say. So just give me a second while I look it up. Oh my God, technology fails me yet again. I think I should be right on the line where I need to be. We're going to be running out of time here soon, so I'm going to let you go. I'm going to get this processing, all that. I want to thank you so much for doing this, Carol. This was fantastic. Watching the movie for this was just so much fun. And again, like I said, main reason is I really like to hear more about what you think or how you perceive the makeup was done and all that. Again, we're looking at a budget of $4 million for the movie and 1983 technology on a budget. Like there's no digital. You don't do digital. It's everything is practical. There is no you've got puppets, you've got rods, you've got,
and that's what so much fun about it.
Exactly.
Because I can't help but watch a movie like that and think, okay, how did they do that? As I'm watching it, it's like, how did they do that?